Championship in 1990. Bigfoot, the Ford that started it all, with veteran campaigner Jim Kramer behind the wheel. These two may end up in the greatest Ford and Chevy clash yet. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speedworld. Welcome, everybody, to the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Brett Kedner, and in just a minute, the biggest battle of monsters since Godzilla took on King Kong is about to take place. The defending world monster truck champion, Fred Schaefer in Barefoot, will take on the man who finished #2 in the world last year, Jack Willman in Taurus, in an all-star field headed by these two killers.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Chapman at the State Fair Arena in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Coming up, a Rock'em Sock'em Classic Western Shootout featuring the fastest guns in mud racing.
The defending champion, Larry Jarrett, from right here in Perry, Oklahoma, the Locomotion Supercharged Chevrolet will be one of the toughest contenders, as will the sport's quickest and fastest Ford. Welcome to the 1991 Monster Truck Challenge Series. Welcome, everybody, to the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. We are just a moment away from starting qualifying for a rather unusual U.S. Hobbit Association Camel Monster Truck Showdown. A very, very short course, only 120 feet in distance, in a battle that will require a driver's reaction times to be absolutely perfect. The very first machine coming out to qualify, New Jersey veteran Mike Wine in the Outlaw Ford, sponsored by Super Winch, will be up against the clock on this shortened course to determine qualifying position. As always, the Centrum event is one of the biggest and best on the U.S. Hobbit Association Trail, drawing the top competitors in the monster truck battle for the Camel World Championship in 1991. Including, of course, the truck that finished #2 in the world last year, Jack Willman in Taurus. Meanwhile, Willman, of course, will be looking to improve on last season's #2 in the world finish. Willman stages up, signals that he is ready. He'll take the first qualifying run. Beautiful airborne leap. The elapsed time for the Taurus Chevy, 2.22 seconds, and that will set the pace here in qualifying. Back on the starting line, Mike Wine gets ready with the supercharged Ford. The elapsed time, 0.6 of a second slower than the Taurus machine, 2.82 seconds for Mike Wine's Jersey Outlaw. That will bring out the Breen Brothers entry, the Whiskey Business Chevrolet from Missouri, with Ken Deppy behind the wheel. Deppy, a relative newcomer to the U.S. Hobbit Association Trail, but with a truck that has more than enough power. He will be up against probably the most powerful truck in the history of this sport. The truck that, regardless of its power, had a driver strong enough to win the 1990 U.S. Hobbit Association Camel World Championship, Fred Schaefer in Barefoot. An incredible flight. Fred Schaefer returns to Earth. The elapsed time, 1.97 seconds. #1 qualifier by a quarter of a second as Ken Deppy lines up in the far lane. A bizarre landing, but actually an exceptional run, 2.79 seconds. Here comes the crowd favorite, the monster truck that has won this event the last 2 years in a row. It's Jim Kramer at the wheel of the incredible Bigfoot Ford. With Barefoot leading qualifying, look at the next machine pulling out as the crowd goes crazy. It's the first New England appearance ever on the U.S. Hobbit Association Trail for Dennis Anderson and the incredible Gravedigger. The rear-engine Chevy from Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. The wild man of monster trucks behind the wheel. Unbelievable flight for Dennis Henderson. Straight up and down just before the finish line. The elapsed time, 2.25 seconds. It'll put him right now, number 3 in the field. Kramer on the line and ready. Another incredible flight. Kramer lands it with an elapsed time of 2.26 seconds, 100th of a second slower than the Gravedigger Chevrolet. Coming up, one of the winningest drivers of this 1991 season. We call him the working class hero, the unsponsored First Blood Ford of Rob Fuchs. Moves it up against John Breen and the Micro Machines Chevrolet. Rob Fuchs clears the tachometer in the First Blood Ford as Breen moves up to stage first. He's ready. I don't think the handling problems were caused by anything going on in the cockpit. It looked as if the machine did not have front-wheel drive when it left the starting line. There may be breakage in the front differential of that machine. We'll have to wait and see the elapsed time for the Micro Machine entry, 2.84 seconds, coming, of course, nearly to a stop at the finish line. Rob Fuchs now moves up with the First Blood Ford. Launch and an equally violent landing. Rob Fuchs stops the clocks at 2.24 seconds. He'll move into the number 3 spot ahead of Gravedigger and Bigfoot. The unsponsored independent is still as wild as ever. Stay with us.
You played every Mario.
We're back at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts, as we get ready for the first round of side-by-side competition here in the U.S. Auto Association Monster Truck Showdown. But take a look at the way the pairings ended up after qualifying. Number 1 versus number 5. Barefoot versus Bigfoot. The ultimate Ford versus Chevrolet matchup with the defending world champion in the Chevy. Checking the starting line traction. And Jim Kramer, the ultimate monster truck pilot, lining up Bigfoot in the far lane. They leave the line together. Bigfoot out in front. Unbelievable nosedive at the finish line. And the world champion is history in round 1. Take a look at this landing. Absolutely incredible. Mike Wyatt in the Jersey Outlaw and Rob Fuchs in the First Blood Fords pull to the starting line, and they're going to have to go a long way to give the crowd more excitement than they just got at the opening pairing. Fuchs, the number 3 qualifier in the red Ford in the far lane. Mike Wine had his problems during the qualifying round, ended up in number 7 spot in this 8-truck field. He clears the throttle a couple of times, but it doesn't sound much better. No question, Wine is trying to figure out what is wrong with the power plant in the Outlaw. He can only hope that Fuchs makes a grave error here and hands him the win. Mike Wine signals he is not ready to go. He's busy looking at gauges inside that cockpit. He knows there is something drastically wrong. And now the crew heads up to refire a stalled engine. Now, amazingly, Rob Fuchs has shut his engine down in the far lane. Under U.S. Auto Association rules, Fuchs could stage up and demand after 25 seconds that he indeed be given a single run. But Fuchs has shut the engine down and says he'll wait for Mike Wine to get his problems fixed. He said if he's going to win the race, he's going to beat somebody in the other lane to do it. And Mike Wine's machine has apparently lost fire again. And regardless of the sportsmanship shown by Rob Fuchs, it looks like the First Blood machine may be getting a solo run. The crews have the Outlaw refired. But based on what it's gone through just in the last minute or so here on the starting line, chances are it won't stay running for very long. We'll have to wait and see. Fuchs still refuses to give up. He is going to give Mike Wine as much time as it takes to make his run. They're both running. I can't say for how long, but they're ready. Leaves the line and sends her airborne for an easy victory. Mike Wine's machine never got to leave the line under its own power. But one thing's for sure. Rookie of the Year in '89, a top 10 finisher in the Camel World Championship last year, Rob Fuchs in that one round of competition showed his sportsmanship as much as anybody ever has on the Camel Tour. That will bring up John Breen's Micro Machine Chevrolet. Dennis Anderson's incredible Gravedigger 1950 Chevrolet panel truck will be his opponent, the number 4 qualifier in the near lane. Both trucks now ready. Both drivers intently focused on the green light located at the finish line. Shot goes to the Gravedigger. Although John Breen had a great run in the Micro Machine Chevrolet, it was nowhere near enough to make up the disadvantage he earned by leaving the starting line late. The final pair, in the meantime, pulls out onto the racing surface. The Whiskey Business rear-engine Chevrolet machine, owned by the Breen Brothers racing team and driven by Ken Deppy, pulls up to take on the truck that finished number 2 in the world last year, Jack Willman Jr. at the wheel of the Taurus Chevrolet. They leave the line, but it's all Taurus at the finish line. Ken Deppy again, a great job into the wall in the far lane. Deppy could not slow the machine in time, and he taps the retainer at a fairly good clip, but no serious damage noticeable on the front end of the Missouri Chevrolet. As Ken Deppy heads back to the pit area, proudly waving his support of the POW MIA group, it will be Bigfoot versus First Blood in an all-Ford battle, and Taurus versus Gravedigger in an all-Chevy matchup, guaranteeing us a Ford and Chevy finale here at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. And we'll see super modified mud racing action from Tulsa, Oklahoma, with Larry D'Antoni's incredible Addicted to Mud machine and Paul Schaefer at the wheel of the Mud Patrol. We're in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, at the Oklahoma City State Fairgrounds Arena as we get ready for the qualifying round for the nation's quickest and fastest indoor motorsports machines, the Super Modified Mud Racers. Mark Watra's out of the state of Michigan, the Rancho Shock Absorber Ford Thunderbird funny car with supercharged Ford power. On the brakes hard. He stops it in time. An incredible run. The elapsed time, 1.85 seconds. A new course record. Byron Tinky out of the state of Iowa, the Bad Habit supercharged Chevrolet 1932 Coupe. Next up. Tinky on the brakes. He'll stop it in time, and a great run for the blue Chevrolet. 2.15 seconds. Here's the most identifiable mud racing vehicle in the sport. The Mud Patrol 1932 Chevrolet nitrous oxide injection with a new driver this season, Indiana's oval track stock car veteran Paul Schaefer. Wheels up and into the finish line pulls. Paul Schaefer nets himself a disqualification. And here's Detroit, Michigan's Tony Ferrotti. The Let's Boogie supercharged Chevy-powered winged 1927 Ford Roadster has to go quicker than 2.19 seconds to qualify. On the brakes hard. He stops it within a matter of inches of the disqualification line. And the elapsed time, 2.04 seconds will qualify the machine in the Quick 4 shootout. But here comes the killer, the supercharged big block Chevrolet powered locomotion entry of Perry, Oklahoma's Larry Jarrett. will stop it with 3 feet to spare. The best news, though, is the elapsed time. 1.94 seconds. But here's the ultimate killer. 3-time and defending world champion Tom Martin in the Super Trooper 32 Chevy. A rough ride. Martin runs 2.12 seconds. Ken Crum in the Wild Thing supercharged Chevy-powered dragster, always one of the toughest, fastest, and lightest campaigners in this super-modified division. A great run. He shuts down a little bit early. Ken Crum runs 1.98 seconds and makes the field. So number 1, the Ford of Mark Watros at 185, followed by defending champ Larry Jarrett at 194. Then a 198 by Ken Crum and a 204 by Tony Verodi. But we've got mud racing and monster truck action yet to go. Don't go away. We're back at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts in monster truck competition. It'll be a pair of Fords and a pair of Chevys determining their best representative to advance to a Chevy versus Ford championship dash. The first matchup will pit the Fomoco products. It'll be the first blood of Rob Bush from Woodstock, Illinois. The number 3 qualifier taking on the upset-minded Jim Kramer. Kramer unloaded on the number 1 qualifier, Fred Schaefer in the Barefoot Chevrolet in the first round, and unloaded on him big. But believe me when I tell you, Rob Fuchs can run with the best. An incredibly close matchup, and it's the Bigfoot Ford by the slimmest of margins at the finish line. An incredible race. This time around, the gravedigger of Dennis Anderson will meet up with the truck that finished number 2 in the world last year, Jack Wilman's Taurus Chevrolet. As Rob Fuchs and Jim Kramer head back to the pit area, Dennis Anderson concentrates on lining up the radical rear-engine 50 Chevy that seems to have become the single most popular truck in U.S. Auto Association competition just from the beginning of the 1991 season to present. Even with the Taurus team doing so well in the Camel World Championship last year, Dennis Anderson is still the crowd's man to pull for. Inching forward up to the starting line itself. Now the Taurus entry moves to the line. They are staged. The winner will take on Bigfoot here in Worcester. And it's Taurus driving away for the victory. Dennis Anderson may have left the starting line with Wilman, but believe me when I tell you, the Taurus machine drove away from the half-track point on. So it will pit Illinois and Missouri, Ford and Chevrolet in the final round. 2 teams that have battled multiple times on the U.S. Auto Association trail, but it will be well worth watching the Bigfoot versus Taurus shootout in the final round. Stay with us. We're back as we get ready for the 4 premier campaigners at this event here at the Oklahoma City, Oklahoma State Fairgrounds. The 1989 Ford Thunderbird funny car of Michigan's Mark Watros. The Team Rancho shock absorber machine has gone as quick as 1.71 seconds. But at this event was low qualifier with a track record 1.85 second shot. He gets first chance at putting down the number that hopefully will stand up to win this battle between the 4 quickest drivers in this event. A great run. Now, can he stop it in time? Yes, within a matter of 2 or 3 feet. Watros makes a perfect run. The elapsed time, and now the mark to beat, 2.02 seconds. The crowd loves this guy, one of the best in the business at stopping within that 80-foot distance past the finish line. That will put the pressure on the remainder of the team. However, we have just received word that Ken Crum's Wild Thing dragster has apparently run into mechanical problems and will be unable to compete in the shootout. He will be awarded 4th place automatically. But now it turns into a 3-man war, and Mark Watros has put down the first salvo in this battle. The next machine pulls to the starting line, and it is the number 4 qualifier, Tony Ferrotti, in his Michigan-based supercharged Chevy-powered roadster called Let's Boogie. It's been a long season for Ferrotti, his first year on the full national event tour. The mark to beat, 2.02 seconds. Ferrotti ran 2:04 in qualifying. He says the track is better. We'll see. He stops it in time. Stopping, in fact, was not even a problem. He had to go quicker than 2.02 seconds. Ferrotti runs 1.96 seconds. He takes over the pole and indeed was correct in his prediction that the track would get better as time went on. It's Perry, Oklahoma's Larry Jarrett and the radical supercharged Chevy-powered sprint car appearing machine called Locomotion. Now, Jarrett ran 1.94 seconds in qualifying. He's got to go quicker than 1.962 right now. Nobody knows this track better than him. He shuts the engine off early to stay in bounds. That may have cost him the elapsed time for Jarrett, 2.08 seconds, and the defending champion goes down in defeat to a relative newcomer. Tony Ferrotti wins the super modified division, and Larry Jarrett falls short in his bid for a second straight win here at the Oklahoma City State Fairgrounds Arena. Well, certainly there are few moments as sweet as those which come right after a racer's first victory of the season, and Chris Chapman is with Tony Ferrotti.
How's it feel to win?
Good. Feels real good. Hopefully luck's changing and can keep going this way.
I know you've been having a lot of problems with stopping so far this season, but yeah, you didn't have problems out there, and it was a real bad track. How'd you do it?
Well, the car come off the line good, and something just didn't feel right halfway down the track, so we got off the gas, and we didn't get off it soon enough, and it stopped.
He says it perfectly. He got off the gas, he did it soon enough, and it stopped. That was what it took, plus plenty of 1-second horsepower for Tony Ferrotti to pick up his first victory of the 1991 season. That will bring us to the championship monster truck finale here at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. The driving job of this event has been done by the man in the big blue Ford, Jim Kramer. He is lined up against a second-generation driver, Jack Willman Jr., who took over the reins of the Taurus Chevrolet from his father, Jack Sr., last year. The starting line crew clears the area. Now it's man versus man, machine versus machine, Ford and Chevrolet ready to leave the line. The whole shot goes to Taurus. Bigfoot goes airborne. And the Taurus Chevrolet becomes the first machine in 3 seasons to beat Bigfoot at the Centrum here in Massachusetts. On the replay, you can see the starting line reaction was everything for Jack Willman, while Bigfoot went sky high. Willman headed for the finish line and picked up the win by a half a truck length. Incredible leap by Jim Kramer, but a loss nonetheless. Jack Willman wins it for the Chevrolet fans. You won the championship dash strictly on your reaction time, Guy. It was all whole shot.
Yeah, my on the leave on the line was a lot critical on this short track, and I got a good launch, and it just turned out to my favor, and I'm glad it worked out that way.
An incredible evening.
Certainly hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I have. We'll see you again next time. I'm Chris Chapman.
Well, Jack Willman Jr. may be one of the youngest drivers in the World Championship Monster Truck Tour, but there's no question this kid can drive. Another victory for the Illinois Chevrolet. Thanks for being with us here at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Brett Kuppner. See you next time.